Hello. Today is not my usual day for bringing multiple cases, but as I explained earlier, we're a little bit behind in bringing you some of the things that happened while we were covering the day-to-day live trial of Sarah Boone. And then we had the update of Adam Fravel to get caught. Two trials going on at the same time. So we're going to just get right into it. We've got a little bit to cover, and I know that there are other streams later on that I want to actually make sure that everybody can go see if they'd like. So let's just look at what we have for today. All right. As you can see, there's a lot of people in there. Lori Vallow, Lindsay Shiver, some of you may or may not be familiar with, an old friend, Danny Masterson, whose trial we had covered before from last year. Bryan Kohberger, recently a lot going on, and we covered quite a few hearings for him. Lori Vallow's hearings, and also the Tate brothers had a hearing in Romania. So I'm going to get right into it, and we're going to start. Let's just start with what's going on with Lori Vallow. Okay, Lori Vallow had two hearings recently. She actually, let me bring that back up. She had a hearing on the 14th and on the 20th. Okay. Wait a second here. These are sorry about that. I lost my tab. Sorry for the silence. Hopefully the audio is good. Hey Shill, good to see you. Can you let me know if the audio is doing okay? Now, on the hearing of the 14th, that was in Maricopa County. We're in Arizona now, and Lori Vallow is on trial or getting ready to go on trial. She's been indicted for conspiracy for the murder of her ex-husband, Charles Vallow, and also for the attempted murder against her ex-nephew, Brandon Bordeaux. And they are, although they're separate indictments, we don't know if there's going to be one trial, but currently there's one judge, and that is Judge Justin Boreski in Maricopa County. However, the actual hearing on November 14th was because Lori Vallow's previous defense attorneys filed for a Rule 11, which is a competency. They said they had some concerns in her behavior and things that she was saying. She wanted them fired. She doesn't want those defense attorneys. They said there was a conflict of interest and they couldn't comfortably work with her anymore and asked to be removed from the case. But they filed the Rule 11 request with the judge first. So it goes to the magistrate, okay, and that's Commissioner Travis Masterson, I believe, Masterson. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, so I apologize, Judge or Magistrate, if I actually got that wrong. Anyway, those attorneys filed with him. He agreed. They assigned two examiners, competency examiners, a Dr. McGreedy and another. Dr. McGreedy went over the prison notes that she's been in custody and rendered an opinion that he thought she was okay, but Lori Vallow had refused to talk with him. He had a very brief conversation. She didn't really want to cooperate with the competency examiners. The second examiner didn't get to see her at all. She wouldn't speak or do anything, and so they would not give an opinion. So during the 14th hearing, she has new defense attorneys, Pamela Hicks and Pamela Hicks is the lead for that. She speaks the most in these hearings. She's a dark-haired attorney. You'll see dark-haired young woman. Um, the prosecuting attorney on file is Rachel Mesner, or Fessner rather. However, I do not. I think it was someone else who actually was in the attendance for that actual hearing. Yeah. Pamela Hicks is also with Robert Abernathy and Megan Schwartz. They're the three new defense attorneys that are helping her out because Lori wants to go pro se. And we all know that in the process of pro se, there has to be some kind of order from a judge saying that it's okay, that she's confident enough, she understands the procedures. These new defense attorneys think that she's just fine and she's able to do this, and this whole thing is ridiculous. And if you listen to the actual hearings, you'll hear that yourselves. And I'm going to give you the copies of the two hearings. I recorded them both for you guys. You can go over them. I'm just going to give you they're both of those. The first one's the 14th. The second one is the 20th. So on the 14th, when the judge heard that one of the examiners is actually saying she's competent, but she refused to see the other and she wasn't cooperating, the state, he said he was willing to go with the one report from Dr. McGreedy if the state would proclaimed that they were fine with it. They were unwilling to stipulate to that condition. They said they're not fine with it. They want to. Okay. And since she's not cooperating, they asked the magistrate to actually assign someone else, which he did. He assigned Camille Hernandez, who said that she had saw something about the case online. And so then the defense objected and made a note to the state about that. But he left it at that, knowing that Judge Justin Beresky was going to see everybody in a week. He said, well, let's just get another on file. I am not going to pull Lori Vallow out of Rule 11. We're going to finish this because the defense is adamantly saying that this is ridiculous and they just want her out. They want the judge to say she's competent and move forward. However, this judge was not willing to do that and sent it back over to Judge Beresky to see if he would accept just the one. But he did also order a second examiner to again go and cooperate, and hopefully Lori Vallow would cooperate and talk to him. Now, on the 14th, Lori Vallow wouldn't even cooperate with the hearing. She wouldn't even show up. Nope. Her attorneys were there. And so that, Judge Martirosyan, he actually said, like, I'm not comfortable agreeing to competency when she's not here. Like, she won't even talk to me. Part of it is like, can I talk to her? And so the defense attorneys, we weren't aware that she needed to actually be here. The other thing is the state found out that the defense attorneys had actually advised Lori Vallow not to cooperate with the examiners, not to speak with them if she didn't want to. Now, it is her right to cooperate or not, but to get that advice from the defense attorneys, well, that kind of annoyed the state, which is why they would not stipulate to competency without jumping through all the hoops. You could tell they were a little bit miffed. They were definitely a little bit miffed on that one. So on it goes to the 20th, and Judge Justin Beresky, who, I'll give you a warning, when you watch on the 20th, he speaks very slow. He's like, this is all like too much for him right now. You could tell he's not sure what happened in Idaho. He knows something happened in Idaho, but he's not really. It did not seem to me that he was 100% on top of everything that was going on. Apparently, the defense had sent in McCready's notes on competency to him under seal. He had not read it yet. Apparently, they, I don't know how they file it. Anyway, he had to read it in during the court. In the process, he decides he wants to speak with Lori Vallow in regards to this competency. She did come to the 20th. The defense did have her come forward, and she was there, and she got to speak with the judge. And he found out that she had been in Rule 11 in Idaho, and that she actually took 10 months of being declared incompetent before she could actually stand trial. And that resonated with him a little bit. Is based on that information, in that the fact that the state will not stipulate with only one opinion, and that opinion of someone who actually only looked at the prison notes, because they validly said. Now, I'm not sure which one it was, because in the one hearing, it was Deputy County Attorney Katie Staub who was speaking, and it could have been Rachel Fensner too, but I'm not sure, because the reporting doesn't actually say all the time who the state attorneys are. But I know on the 14th, Katie Staub, I heard her speaking that they weren't going to stipulate. And then in the second one, I do believe it was Rachel Fenster who said, again, they're not going to stipulate on the opinion of an examiner who is qualified, to look at the notes, but however did not ask the questions that would pertain to competency for pro se, and ask all the relevant information to actually give a mental diagnosis. It was already disclosed that in Idaho, when she went through competency, that she did receive diagnosis, and then they muted everything. There's going to be a big blank in the middle of the court where there's like beeping going on and white noise, because they then went up to the bench, because the defense, he asked her straight out and she was going to answer, and the defense stopped her because, honestly, mental health diagnosis concerns and HIPAA issues, that doesn't have to be for public, and this was a publicly screened hearing. So I understand why the defense said that. They went up to the bench, they disclosed to the doctor, not to the doctor, to the judge, what the doctors had, the examiners during the competency in Idaho had disclosed to Lori Vallow could be some of her issues, and they address that privately there. And then the defense asked for everything to be sealed. What they'll do, even though the actual sidebars are transcribed and sidebars can be released at a later date, he's going to have to decide whether he seals that particular portion 100%, as the defense has requested, which I'm sure we can all agree would be the right thing to do, right? Because, that doesn't really need to be out there. Although, curious as I was, I would like to know what they did say about her, actually, because she does want to go pro se. Well, at the end of the hearing on the 20th, Judge Justin Beresky decided he would actually send it back to the forensic part of the court, to assign another examiner to Lori Vallow, that she will cooperate and follow through. He's not letting her out of Rule 11. The defense pushed hard that she was competent and he could talk to her and he could figure this out. One of the Mr. Abernathy, I believe, for the defense, actually said, she doesn't have to cooperate if she doesn't want. In Brins, he says, yeah, I agree with that, but I'm not comfortable knowing she was already incompetent for 10 months. Now she wants to be pro se. I'm not going to do it based on somebody just looking at notes. No, we're going to have two. They then said that they wanted Mr. McCready to go and re-examine her, and he said, no, it's not necessary. He's already given his opinion. If he wasn't comfortable with that opinion, he shouldn't have gave it. He's not going to get a chance to go back and talk to her again. We're going to put a brand new person on it. Camille Henderson was removed because she had seen something, in regards to the case. So, that was a valid complaint on the defense. It was like prejudgment, even though, I don't think there could have been much there for her to predetermine anything, but still, just, on the side of caution, he just said, whoop, and he's just going to have somebody come in. But that's where we are. Just delay. We're going to have to find out. The next hearing is December 2nd, I believe. I think it's the 2nd or the 5th. And so we'll find out then. We'll be back with both judges to find out if she gets out of Rule 11 for this competency, how long she will be in or what. But it's very interesting that she wants to be pro se. These attorneys too want to be released for her to be pro se, and they are pushing Judge Berinsky to actually decide whether she can be, whether to accept pro se, to let the other attorneys out, to let them out, and just to let her be pro se, and they would be the attorneys of counsel. Now, Judge Berinsky did express a concern that though she was going to be pro se, because the previous three attorneys that were hearing for her defense had stated in the hearing before that they needed more time and they needed to help her, and they may not be prepared. He was like, no, if she goes pro se, I don't want that to be an issue, that you're not available for counsel, because like her having a timely trial is her right. And if that's what she wants, if she wants to move forward, you better all be on board. I don't want to get into any of that. So are you going to motion? Are you going to throw anything at me? And he kind of put them to the test, but they said, nope, there wouldn't be. So we will see about that. Because the one thing I did notice about this defense team is that they were pushy, which you do want someone to defend your rights and be pushy, yes. But they also bordered on disrespect more than once, more than once or twice. And actually, kind of like trying to call the judge out for not knowing that they had filed a motion, which they had filed under seal. And you're supposed to actually send in another another notice to the clerk that it's filed under seal and blah blah blah, so the judge could get it. Like, it was a week before. Even if he didn't read it, to call him out like that, it was a little disrespectful. I don't think they're going to get very far with this judge that way. Arizona doesn't seem to know a lot of what on in Idaho. I heard the state's attorney actually say, we're just now hearing about the 10 months of incompetency, which I found to be like bizarre that they wouldn't know. But I guess some things are sealed, or they hadn't checked up, or the information isn't flowing. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's going to be quite interesting, this Arizona trial, and we'll see. Also, I know there's a lot of speculation back and forth on what is Lori Vallow's actual name. I refer to her as Lori Vallow Daybell because most of us know she married Chad Daybell. Yes, she is still married to Chad Daybell. However, her legal name for indictment in Arizona, as proved to be her legal name, she never changed it to Daybell. It is Lori Vallow, which is why most of the stuff when we're talking about the case is going to be Lori Vallow. Okay, just to clear that up. I mean, some people have come to me in like they don't feel she has the right to use that name because of the death of her husband and she was involved in the murder. And I get that. Well, like, sentiments aside, I'm with you. I get it. But her legal name is Vallow. And rather than argue with attorneys in regards to me using the improper name, I think I'm going to stick to Vallow for a while. I will mention Daybell here and there so you guys know who I'm talking about. But it'll either be Lori Vallow or Lori Vallow Daybell. So, hey, on that. So, hey, I'm going to just check for questions real quick because I'm going to go quick. I don't want to interfere with anybody else's streams. Mrs. Cassandra, are you guys streaming at 8? Hey, Mippet. Wanda, it's good to see you. Shil, I'm glad you're here. Janae, hi. How are you? Karen, it's good to see you too. Okay. Oh gosh, it's beautiful weather there, Mippet. I'm jealous because I'm freezing right now. I am absolutely freezing. All right. It is her legal name. Yes, it is, Mrs. Cassandra. Vallow is her legal name. Thank you. Oh, Banner, thank you very much for reminding me, Mippy. Because I forgot with everything else that I've got, Okay, Mrs. Cassandra, I'll be done by then. And you can get that link ready if you'd like and put it in the chat for the end. That would be great. Or Purple or Mippy. I would like everybody to go over there afterwards if they can. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next one since I don't see any questions. This one, Lindsay Shiver. You guys might not know too much about Lindsay Shiver. It's a case I've been following behind the scenes. Okay. Um, Lindsay Shiver was is let's see. Lindsay Shiver is married, I believe, to an ex-Eagle football player. Is it an Eagle football player? It was. Let me quickly Anyway, she's married to Robert Shiver, and they started a divorce in April of 2023. Based on Lindsay Shiver's, or Robert actually, Robert Shiver filed for divorce based on Lindsay's adulterous behaviors. They own a vacation home in the Bahamas, and he had discovered through an Apple Watch that she had had an affair with an 18-year-old while at the vacation home a while back, and that she was currently having an affair with who is now named as an accomplice or co-defendant in her current charges. Now, her current charges are the attempting to her defendant Terrence Bethel, who she is having the affair with, who is her current boyfriend. They still say that they are seeing each other, and his friend Farron Newbold are co-defendants, facing charges of conspiracy to commit murder in the Bahamas, targeting her estranged husband Robert Shiver. This is a big case. It attracted a lot of attention due to its dramatic elements because, like, there was like videos released of arguments between Robert in Lindsay, just the contentiousness of how actually they discovered the elements of the crime. Um, it happened in July of 2023. The alleged plot was discovered during an investigation into a burglary at a bar in the Bahamas. I believe the bar's name was Grabbers. The police reportedly found incriminating text messages on a confiscated phone, and that phone would have been that phone of Terrence Bethel or Farron Newhold. All right, I believe it was Terrence Bethel. They found text messages in WhatsApp and stuff, and actually pictures, and apparently, allegedly, Lindsay Shriver, she was talking to him about, Robert Shriver no longer wished her to use the private jet. Yes, they have a private jet that they flew to the Bahamas, their vacation home all the time. Well, Robert didn't really feel like, since they were getting divorced, that Lindsay should be able to use the jet to fly to the Bahamas to meet with her beau. So he said she couldn't use it anymore. She got pissed off when she couldn't go with them on a family vacation so that she could actually stay elsewhere with her beau, and still be with their children. Robert and Lindsay have 3 children. And when Robert filed, he was going for joint custody and joint finances and let her have, still access to the house, that they were still actually living in the same house with the kids. But lo and behold, in July of 2023, things got a little bit heated. She got annoyed and very upset that he wasn't going to let her go on this vacation. She wanted to meet with her beau. She sent him a picture of Robert with "kill him," allegedly, in the text. Basically, the Bahamas officials are saying that wasn't enough, that there was much more to the conversation, and they've got the text messages to back it up. So they indicted all 3 of them. Okay. Now, they were all put on bail. It took a little while. They were arrested in July. Lindsay was released on $100,000 bond in August of that month, and the other 2 were released on $20,000 each. Okay. The defendants did plead not guilty, and the trial was initially scheduled for late spring, early summer of 2024. However, the Bahamian courts are way, way behind, and things just kept getting pushed. It's due to a scheduling conflict in the Bahamian courts, and so it was taking a while. All right. Well, Lindsay was allowed to travel back to the United States because originally, when she was released on bond, they all had ankle monitors. They had to be home by 8 o'clock at night. They weren't, they had to stay from 8 o'clock at night till 6 a.m. in their homes. They weren't allowed to travel anywhere. when she was allowed to get her passport back and come back to the States, she had to stay in her parents. She wasn't allowed to go. Robert Shriver had a restraining order. She's not allowed to go within 100 feet of him. She still had joint custody with the children, but she was only allowed to go anywhere to where they were only based on custody and or divorce proceedings. She had to completely stay over by her parents in Georgia. Okay. But recently things have kind of heated up. Lindsay Shiver and Terrence Bodum actually agreed to a release of information through Good Morning America, like a public relations kind of thing. He did an interview with them. There were pictures of her shown during it. They both tried to tell the Bohemian court like that was a violation of their release of bail, discussing the case publicly out here like that. And they really took it as a violation. They both said that their arrangements with Good Morning America was that they would not be released until after the proceedings were done. They sent the contracts to them. It did not copacetate with what the Bohemian courts thought was legitimate, and so they revoked their bail. Both Lindsay Shiver and Terrence Bodum are now back in custody in Bohemia, in the Bahamas. Okay, and their condition, they have to stay there until the hearing now. They're actually under appeal. There is going to be the judge emphasized that repeated violations and concerned over safety, especially after reports of domestic altercations involving her boyfriend. Shiver is currently detained at the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services alongside her co-defendant Terrence Bethel, who also had his bail revoked. They do have a new trial date of April of 2025. Okay, the judge in the Bahamas is Senior Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson. She's not playing around with either of them. Lindsay Shiver does have a defense attorney, Damian Gomez. Okay, he's a prominent lawyer in the Bahamas. And he's been representing her and he's challenging the revocation of her bail. They have the appeal hearing was scheduled on November 6th, okay, and was denied. The appellate court has reversed its decision and no immediate ruling has been issued yet. The primary trial set for April 2025. It could take weeks for the appeal decision to come through from the appellate court. They have not announced a specific date for releasing a decision on whether Lindsay Shiver's bail revocation will be reversed. And such decisions are delivered within a couple of weeks, although it's already the 21st, and this all happened on the 6th, and then was appealed within a few days. But yeah, I do have something for you on this. We're not allowed to show this actually on YouTube because it's copyright protected. But for those of you following the case, if you want to see the perp walk of Lindsay Shiver, there it is. So that's the update. Let me just check for questions on Lindsay Shiver. Hey, Rec. Thanks for the ordering. Hey, Turtle Moves. Okay. Yeah, sweater in the Bahama, Wanda. In Wanda, big hugs. I've been sending you lots of hugs and hearts lately. I've been thinking about you. Okay, the next one that we have, since you guys got no questions on Lindsay Shiver, we're going to keep following that. By the way, that's going to be a friend had asked me to cover that, and I'm glad she did because it is quite interesting. I don't usually get into the messy divorces, but when you text your boyfriend to try to kill your ex, like Yeah, I might get interested. I might get a little interested. What really interests me is that this is a United States citizen on trial in the Bahamas, and the laws are just a little bit different. It is territorial for the United States, like, so it's not that bad, but it is separate. Okay, and it's got all this kind of messy stuff going on. Like, the children are here currently. She's back in Bahama jail, so obviously Robert has custody of the kids again, and it's just going back and forth. Lindsay Shiver has also made a few complaints that in her divorce filings that Robert was quite abusive, physically, emotionally, uh, and so there's cross complaints going on. It's not just a one sided thing. I do feel for the kids. My only question is why she has joint custody when she's suspected of attempting murder. Well, exactly, and that is why the divorce isn't final yet. It's they're going through this criminal trial first. It's kind of going along with it, and of course, he's using everything. I would imagine, based on what happens in the criminal court, if she is actually found guilty of this, if there is actually something to this, because remember, it's all allegedly. It's text messages. She says she was joking around. Now, I don't know, show of text in the chat. How many of us are guilty of saying, I'll kill him, or I'll kill her, or, oh, I wanted to kill them? I mean, come on. Sometimes we make statements like this. I don't necessarily type them out, and you shouldn't, because as we found out, a bar could actually have a incident, and somebody's phone could get, like, confiscated, and then you're in hot water, like Lindsay Shiver. But I mean, we've all said things, right? Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen with those kids, but I get your concern. Um, but here's the other thing: in just because you don't get along with your ex doesn't mean you're a bad parent. She might be great with those kids. Those kids deserve both their parents, the best that they can be in their lives. And I'm sure he's limiting. Of course, now she can't see them because she's in the Bahamas. But there was some, problems with actually shared time back and forth. She had made some complaints to the police that he was not bringing the children back, and etc. And there was a couple of, actually, it's online. There's a couple of incidences that you can search. I think it's Law Network or Court TV. One of them had it up there. I don't believe it's in the video I gave you. That's really just the perp walk stuff, which can't be shared on YouTube without special permission by the video owner for copyright reasons. So, all right, for Bryan Kohberger, some of you may have heard that actually Judge Hippler actually did give his memo out on his decision on whether the prosecution can go forward with the death penalty in the Bryan Kohberger case. And the judge, in a 55-page memorandum full of precedent, case law, and conclusion, actually walks through all the steps as to why, took his time, dotted his I's, crossed his T, and denied all of those defense motions. All of them. He listed them all, denied them all constitutionally. Because here's the thing, without getting into a great debate on the death penalty, we all have our own personal beliefs about it. Well, here's the thing, in Idaho, it is legal, and the constituents of Idaho voted it that way. And as long as it's on that book that way, Judge Hippler needs to follow the letter of the law. And he did address all of the defense's motions by the letter of the law as to how it pertains to this case in the state of Idaho. Because if you'll recall, the defense actually threw things out there about moral connotations in international law of treaties and all kinds of things. I mean, they even went to the Eighth Amendment of cruel and unusual punishment. However, in our Constitution, it does say that if a state does put in the death penalty. It does not pertain to cruel and unusual punishment. And lethal injection and the firing squad have both been deemed to not be cruel and unusual, actually to be preferred methods of if using the death penalty, especially over electrocution, which we used to use in that was cruel, in crazy. Well, we don't do that anymore in these states. Now, I will say this: there are 27 states in the United States in our group of America that do allow the death penalty. The constituents have voted, so it's law. And a judge needs to follow the law. So, however you feel about it, if you want to read it, there's the 55 pages. But he is allowing the prosecution to keep the death penalty on the table should Bryan Kohberger be found guilty of his indicted charges. Four charges of first degree murder and the burglary charge. Okay. Now, it should be said that because the death penalty is on the table, it got there because this particular case has 4 aggravators of the 11 that are listed to qualify for death penalty sentencing. Now, those 4 aggravators is more than enough because you only need one to move forward with the death penalty. And as hard as the defense team, Ann Taylor and Jay Logston and Ellie Messoff, they have really put forward everything they could to get it removed. And I'm sure it lays a great foundation for later if it does go for appeal. Now, all death penalty, if Bryan Kohberger is found guilty and he does go through death penalty sentencing and he is actually sentenced to death, there is an automatic appeal anyway. And all of those motions in this judge's ruling will come into play at a higher court. Okay. And so that's where we stand right now with that. On the motions to dismiss all the evidence, nope, we don't have anything on that yet. That was a lot for the judge to digest. But since he didn't take really that long to actually go over the death penalty stuff after the oral arguments were received and to go over all the filings, I'm sure that we'll know within the next couple of weeks how he stands with that. We have another hearing in December, or is it? No, it's in January. For Bryan Kohberger, and we will. I'm thinking we will know about these motions before that because that's a status hearing, and he's going to want to be moving things along. Hey Sean, how you doing? Mrs. Cassandra, is there more evidence we're not seeing on this one? You mean Bryan Kohberger? Apparently, when they filed all those defense motions in my last, I did one on Kohberger last week, I believe, or the beginning of this week. There's a lot more. They've got his Apple records, his iCloud, his Google, his freaking, his Amazon. They've got all of the tracking of his vehicles, cell phone records, and everything. But it's all going back that they want it all dismissed based on the IgG DNA tension, using the investigative genealogy that they did in an open public, Me23 kind of site to get a familiar tracing to get to the name Kohberger to actually limit the suspect pool. Okay. We know we have the drop of blood on the sheath. We know we have the roommate's statement, eyewitness of somebody in the house. Okay. We have the white Elantra on video in the area at the time, Mrs. Cassandra. Those are things that we knew all along. However, the rest of the investigation has so much more I didn't realize. But when they went to actually suppress all of this information, it came forward that Bryan Kohberger made statements to the police when he was arrested in Pennsylvania that the defense now wants removed. However, what those statements were, we will not see because all of that was under seal. Because they're contesting the IgG and Judge had previously said anything to do with that was going to be under seal. Everything in regards to the long statements that were made anything like that is all under seal, and all of the evidence that Ian Taylor provided in that motion, we are not going to see it. It's sealed for right now until it gets unsealed. If it gets unsealed by Judge Hippler, maybe when they decide to actually not allow these motions to suppress, if they do decide not to kick this evidence out, or maybe then it will become unsealed. I don't know, because once they solve the issue of this genealogy DNA testing that they did, once that motion gets settled, I don't see any reason to actually keep everything under seal anymore. But we'll see what happens. It's not unusual for witness lists and evidence in a high profile case to be kept a little bit over, because everything gets splattered everywhere. And we don't want to tamper with a jury pool. So there is the good possibility that we won't actually see it until it gets a lot closer to selecting that jury. Okay. Oh. Judge Hippler. No, Hippler with double P's, Wanda. Hippler. I'm sorry. It's not his name. No, not the other one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they have been, because, it's such a high profile case, Mrs. Cassandra. That's why. But there you go. That's what I have on you with that. And Sean, don't get in trouble with Fish now. Put your earphones in. And you're answering me, huh? And I can't hear you, right? Wanda, we're going to do a Diddy update after this hearing on Friday. I put a poll on Twitter. Apparently, everybody thinks he should stay in jail. How do you guys feel? I mean, you could tell me in the chat. I'm curious. I was going to put up a poll, but I'm not covering him with this one right now. That was a lot. All right. So no more questions on Kohberger. We're going to move on because we've also got the anniversary that just happened. On the 13th is the anniversary of the deaths of the 4 Idaho University students that Bryan Kohberger is charged with committing homicide on. Zana Kernodle, Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, and Ethan Chapin, sometimes called the Idaho 4. It was quite a sentimental anniversary. I really feel for the families. I absolutely do. Well, something actually sweet happened. I'm going to give you a link just for your references. But actually, some benches were put up for the girls, actually, because they were such good friends. The CDA community had gathered and unveiled benches dedicated to the University of Idaho students. They were in City Park, and they look over Lake Coeur d'Alene and are dedicated to Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Zana Kernodle. The benches have plaques. Okay, there's a lot of articles and a lot of interviews to where Kaylee and Maddie were such good friends. They did everything together. They were such big personality. They were friends to everybody, including Zina Kernodle. They were so well liked by all. So on that Saturday, back on I believe it was the 2nd of November, about almost 2 weeks prior to the anniversary, it was a windy and a rainy day in that park, but they did have a small group there of family and friends and students honoring the young women and Ethan, who were slain 2 years ago. And although Ethan is not on the plaque, Ethan is remembered. It was actually the girls' friends who actually put this actually together. On Maddie and Kaylee's, it does say the names Maddie May and Kaylee Jade, and under their names, it has the hashtag "It's a Forever Thing." In regards to their friendship, they call that bench the bestie bench. Okay, and they just wanted a place where people could go and sit and think of them. The plaque bearing Kernodle's name includes the quote that she's pretty well known for. One of the most important things you can do in life: enjoy the ride, not the destination. Um, Her friends had put this all together and wanted it there by the lake because they often visited there. Um, the Made with Kindness Foundation said that all three women loved the water and spent summers boating and on the beach, and they thought it was like the most appropriate place to have it. And I thought that with everything going on, we should not forget when we are covering these kind of cases, the victims here in the Idaho 4 should be remembered every time that we speak about this. And I just wanted to bring this forward to you guys to know that something really beautiful in memory of them happened. Their loss is tragic. Whether Bryan Kohberger is guilty or not, still the loss of these four young lives should be noted. And we should actually be thinking of their friends and family whenever we can in regards to this case, because it is difficult the longer that it goes on. It will be like almost 3 years before we get to trial. Like it's a long time. It's a very long time. And they're all still dealing with this and the whole area um, on a daily basis. Yeah. So let me just check the chat on that. Mm. Oh, Mandy, hello. Mm. Oh, you missed Shiver in the beginning, but I'm glad you're here. And we're going to be talking about P. Diddy at probably the beginning of next week. Hi, Fish. This is true. They hurt everyone around. The whole town was suffering, which is why which is why it's so important to remember. You know, it's so heartbreaking. We had the same thing. 5 young adults with the his dad was a cop. Canada needs longer sentences. He was studying to be a shrink. Wow. This one was studying Bryan Kohberger, part of the investigation. And the reason they were looking into him was his criminology studies. Actually, they were checking into that. Um, but yeah, okay. On that. Oh, hey, Mandy. I hope you had a great vacation. And I am glad you're back for this. I am. I'm always glad to see you in the chat. Okay. So, on that, let's move on. Because now, here's a familiar face you didn't think we were going to have to talk about for quite some time, huh? Well, here it is again. Again, we got Danny Masterson. And you might be saying, why, oh, why do we have to talk about Danny Masterson? Well, there's shenanigans. That's why. There are post shenanigans. Now, Masterson was convicted on 2 counts of forcible R May 31st of 2023, and that Judge Almeida issued a ruling at that time when she handed down his sentence of 30 years, okay, that the sealing of all information about the jurors, you know, who had unanimously agreed on the 2 counts and were unable to come to a verdict on the third one, unfortunately. Okay. But he did get the 2 sentences. Now, apparently, now this is a little long. Okay. Apparently, Judge Almeida has received emails from a juror stating that someone saying they're from Danny Masterson's habeas team, which would be the appeal team for his sentencing, which he did file an appeal, but his brief is due tomorrow, on why it should be appealed. Okay. What the judge may have done wrong, what procedural things happened, what rights were violated. That's due tomorrow. Well, apparently over the summer, attorneys, not just the habeas attorneys, but Sean Hawley also uh, have been in contact with jurors. Now, some of it probably okay, some of it not. The juror who emailed Judge Almeida, and I'm going to read you that email. It comes from, all of this reporting comes from Tony Ortega, okay? And he said that on September 16th, Okay. Judge Almeida was sent a longer email explaining what was going on because a juror had contacted her and said that she was concerned that she was being contacted. She wants to know how people know who she is, and etc. She was told that she didn't have to talk to anybody, and the judge, of course, is reassuring her she doesn't have to. Okay, but here's what this juror says to Judge Charlene F. Almeida. Subject: Danny Masterson, confidential juror information leaked. Good morning, Judge Almeida. My name is, and it's redacted. I was alternate juror number, and she gives it, on the second Danny Masterson trial. And at 2 o'clock on Sunday, September 15th, I was contacted at my home by a representative of Danny Masterson's legal team. I was doing yard work in my front yard when a car pulled up, parked, and a woman got out and approached me. She asked if I was, redacted name. I said yes, and she said she is a member of Mr. Masterson's habeas team and wanted to ask me some questions about incidents regarding parking in the hallway in front of the courtroom that resulted in the jury being sequestered. I declined to speak with her and asked her how she got my name. She said she got it from another juror and said, "So you declined to participate?" I told her I was declining and that I would be letting the juror know of this because juror information is confidential and there should be no contact with me by Mr. Masterson's legal team. She held up a hand and started backing away and said, "Okay, thank you," and returned to her car and drove away. So I wanted to bring your attention that a juror was given Mr. Masterson's legal team my name and phone number without my permission, and as a result, I was contacted in person by a member of Mr. Masterson's legal team at my home on a Sunday afternoon. Okay. The next day, Judge Almeida issued a ruling that the defense team would have to go through the court in order to have any further contact with the jurors. In a letter to both sides, she explained the legal situation and that the defense lawyers may have broken some of the law. Since the discharge of the jury, she stated in her ruling, I have been contacted by several jurors who have informed me of unwanted contact at their homes. So there was more than this one email. Okay. Um, and to inquire, I am going to be wait a minute, by members of the defense team, and to inquire how the defense team obtained their identifying information. A review of the jurors' complaints received by this court indicate that some of the jurors may have felt pressured by the defense team, that the jurors were not first advised that they had the absolute right to not discuss the case, which they have to say. Okay, if they did not want to do so, and that the jurors did not want to be contacted by defense team and were troubled that they were approached at their homes. If true, such contact by the defense team may be violative of Code of Civil Procedure Section 206. And as a result, you know, Mr. Reinhold Mueller, of course, is filed a motion calling for an evidentiary hearing to get the details on what the defense is up to. Now, since then, Sean Hawley has come forward and said that, well, after the trial, she did consult a juror, and the jury agreed. A juror did agree to talk with her, and she did tell her that she did, they, or her or him, I don't know what it was, did tell the juror that they did not have an obligation to talk to her, but they agreed to, and they actually met for lunch. And that juror put her in contact with two others that decided to talk with her. And Sean Hawley met with those other two jurors also. And that had advised them right up front they did not have to. And it seemed like an unwilling thing. So it doesn't seem like Sean Hawley's the one that they're talking about here. It seems to be the appeal attorneys. Okay. But however, Judge Almeida has had problems with Masterson's attorneys in the past. Remember in 2023, in around June, that the previous attorneys, Tom Mesereau and Sharon Applebaum, had actually shared private and confidential information from the trial that she was covering with the civil attorneys for Scientology, with the Scientology attorneys who are not part of the case. And they were in violation And then they used that evidence to demand internal investigation by the LAPD detectives. And there was that whole big thing. So Judge Almeida was kind of used to them being just like a little bit shady, you know. Um, anyway, it was a whole big thing. If you'd like to go into it deeper, here is an article by a journalist over at the Rolling Stone who kind of covered the whole thing. And then, of course, Mr. Ortega, Tony Ortega, gave his version on his YouTube channel. There's a version of that right there. Um, Listen, that incident that almost got a mistrial. Remember there was that altercation in the hallway and the parking lot that caused such a big thing. And it's actually come back into light because actually the new lead singer for Linkin Park was one of the supporters of Masterson at the time that was in that hallway and was yelling at people. Um, but also there was a YouTuber who I'm not going to mention his name, an ex-Scientologist, who actually almost got a mistrial declared for causing like that whole ruckusy thing like going on there. And we did not have a mistrial do it, but here it is coming up back again because it looks like the habeas team, the appeal lawyers, are looking into it to probably bring that up in the appeal. So I'm very curious to read the appeal, which is due tomorrow. We will see if it actually gets filed and if we actually get to see it. I can't wait because it does appear that that whole shenanigan thing, which almost caused a mistrial to begin with, will be brought up again as to why a mistrial wasn't granted. It could be an issue. Well, they'll go over the rulings by Judge Almeida to see if she did everything. If she dotted her I's, crossed her T's, did good case law, and actually adjudicated the situation appropriately. We're going to find out, right? But damn, Masterson, back in the news, I didn't think I'd have this like for quite a few years, at least until the appeal tomorrow. But here we are talking about it again. Well, yeah, I do think it's great. I do agree. Good for her standing up for herself. The juror, you mean, Sean? Because yes, I absolutely think that that was great that she contacted the judge because like she shouldn't. Am I suggesting that Masterson in Scientology are playing silly boggers? Yes, I am. Actually, it's not a suggestion. I would say history would actually back me up on that's a proper notion to be leading that way. Although it's still just an allegation and nothing's been proven, so we'll see. But hey, it's happened before, in a lot, you know, because it's like, yup, yeah, not exactly smart. Whoever that was that got out of that car, like you should actually have permission before you start talking to them about that. Yeah, you know, yeah. I am so glad that the juror did bring it to light, but of course, you know, we don't know. There's more than one juror involved, but then there are other jurors that did want to willingly talk to the defense team post trial rather, like Sean Hawley, very effective defense attorney, and not accused of any wrongdoing whatsoever. Like I don't want to put that out there because no, you know, just because she's Masterson's attorney, you know, actually the way she laid out the way she approached the jurors in how everything was willingly and then they met her at a later date, she seemed to do everything appropriately, and I doubt that the court will have any issue with that. It is just contacting them, how they got the information of their numbers and all of that, and to contact those that have not reached out. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Well, yeah, very, very interesting that we're going to be talking about this one for a little bit, especially as the appeal goes on. We'll see. We'll see. All of the other Scientology cases are a bit of a mess that I'm following right now. A lot of them have been stayed. A lot of them have been asked to be stayed for a little while as they move forward. They've asked for more time. But yeah. It's hard to say who has dumber lawyers. I don't really think that lawyers are dumb. I just think like they just get into messes. Like I don't know. It depends on who's Masterson. Masterson has their own money. We don't even know if Scientology. It would be erroneous to say that they're involved in any way with the appeal attorneys at this point because I do not know. I just know we don't even know if they actually declared him is not part of them anymore because of all of this. Because under their protocol, I thought they would have by now. But his family is so into Scientology, and his mom's way up there, and everyone's involved. And he was a celebrity, so I don't know. Has he been declared SP? I don't know. I don't know. There's never been any proof. There's been rumors out there. There was an article written. I think the Daily Mail reported on it, but there's no backup of any of it. And so I can't really say like whether he was or not declared. But on that, so that's one bad boy. And I'm going to take a breath and give me a moment. I'm going to wet my whistle a little bit. Because the last one that I have for you, I'm going to pat myself on the back for getting through all of those 4 in an hour. I knew I was going to try. I'm trying to do 5 today. It's got like it. Wanda, take care of yourself. You're welcome anytime. You're welcome anytime. Okay. Oh. All right, you ready? Here we go. Mandy, try not to groan out loud too much. We're going to talk about the Tate brothers. Yes, we are. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I know. Me too, Sean. Bad boys, bad boys. Yes, too many bad boys. Yes, but the song makes me feel better. It's got a good hook, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, whatever gets us through, right? Whatever gets us through. Well, okay. So on the 18th, 19th, there was a hearing from, remember that Andrew and Tristan Tate's attorneys had appealed for the first indictment in Romania because it was passed through the judicial 3-judge panel to be set to trial. But they appealed on it and they had some issues. And what had happened, we talked about this last week, that there were some irregularities in the indictment that the judge was thinking had to be clarified. So the judge rescheduled it for a week and then they did another week. And then we had the actual hearing just the other day. And the results were, yes, the part of the Tate's appeal was granted. There are some things in here that have to be clarified, and there was some evidence. You'll see all over the social platforms that supporters of Tate are saying the case is dismissed and the evidence is all fake and everything's been thrown out. So I just want to clarify straight off the bat, the case is not dismissed. It's been given back to DCOT to correct a couple of irregularities that we're going to go into with you. And yes, there was some evidence removed. There is a statement by one of the victims that's being removed because it wasn't clarified and it was done while they were actually in the investigative process. That has to be redone. That one was removed. And also the statements of Andrew and Tristan that were given to DCOT during the investigation where they were witnesses and not defendants are to be removed. And at this point, they can either re-give their statements and or just stay silent, which I would probably recommend. I think anybody would. A good lawyer would say, shh, don't say a word. Your statements have been removed. They can't use them against you now. Don't say another word. But we know the Tate brothers aren't going to do that, don't we? We know they can't be quiet. They are everywhere talking about everything being fake. We saw all the binders. Okay. All right. All the binders include all the text messages in WhatsApp and all of this stuff. But um, all I can tell you is in the Romanian case, we were actually talking about this last week, that irregularities were admitted on DCOT as expected. And it's due to a lack of clarity regarding some subjects of confiscation, like the items that they withheld and to which victim the charge and the sum of withheld property actually relates to. They want, in other words, to put it in simple English, they needed a better breakdown on all of the things that they confiscated in regards to the Tate brothers, what it related to, which amount, and what property related to which victim and which charge. Okay, does that make sense, right? So it went back to DCOT for that, and as we said, once they did the declaring, they have 5 days to get that further information to them and to clarify it and resubmit it. And then, if approved, it can actually go forward to trial. Also, 2 victim statements to the court were excluded because they were taken too early. The victims will need to give their statements again. However, their statements to DCOT remain. It's not an issue. In other words, the part of the victim statements that pertain to the investigation stay. But to use them for evidence and to be like here in America, like an affidavit, they have to redo them. They also said that additional information to the indictment regarding a victim and deliver all the evidence to her, to Tate's legal team, which is a procedural issue. That for some reason the defense team said they didn't have this about this victim for this charge that was stated over here, and that is just a procedural thing that needs to be clarified. It didn't toss the case. The case is not tossed, okay? But Andrew, like I said, Andrew and Tristan's statements to DCOT were removed from that case file because they can't be used against them, as they were witnesses at the time that they gave the statements. And those statements can be given again, or the brothers could remain silent. Okay, we'll see. This is a win for the brothers, though. To have their prior statements that were being used against them voided as evidence in the trial is a big win for the Tates. And we're going to have to give them that one. That's a win, no matter how you look at it. If you can't have your own words used against you that you gave willingly, so you can't be called a dumbass, yeah. I mean, that's a win. Okay, I'm going to give it to them. Okay. But there were unclear descriptions of human trafficking offenses attributed to both Georgiana and Alexandra. And that could be an issue. DCOT must correct those in the indictment, but it doesn't impact the charges against the Tate brothers, which were the ones that we were focusing on. I don't really focus much on Georgiana and Alexandra, except for the parts of all of the WhatsApp communications and the text messages. If they are not charged, they will actually be witnesses in this case. Whether they are hostile witnesses, they will be named. Their actual text messages are in the case already. They were part of this whole thing. With whether or not the charges against them will stand, they do have to be clarified. And that the appeal court did actually indicate. So if any part is at risk of being thrown out, it's the charges against the 2 women. But the charges against Andrew and Tristan still state, and the case is in no way dismissed. It is actually coming back in a couple of weeks for another hearing. And they have 5 days DCOT to get all of this to the judges. Okay. No other evidence was excluded. And that's a massive blow to the Tate brothers. They're saying that everything's tossed. No, it's not. All of the WhatsApp chats remain. All of the computer documentation remains. All of that. That fake WhatsApp chat stuff that they're sending around is debunked. It's all still part of the case. The majority of the evidence is in the WhatsApp chats, and this is another blow to the Tates, unfortunately. All the computer search evidence does remain is in regards to assets and bills, in how they did these procedures. They still have all the videos of Andrew Tate actually admitting how he does this. They've got actually text messages and Twitter of Georgiana actually recruiting women from Ukraine. Okay. DCOT has those 5 days to address the asset irregularities and to make any additional decisions regarding continuing. So it's in DCOT's hands right now. The next hearing is on December 10th, and all parties are summoned to be there. Okay. Now, what I did is, you guys know that I get a lot of this from a Romanian journalist, a journalist in Romania. I don't know if he's actually Romanian, but he covers the Ukraine war. He covers like hot situations. He's covering some things with this Andrew Tate trial. He's there and he provide. His name is Michel Barbu. Okay, and I'm going to give you actually Twitter links to both of those accounts. Sorry, I hit the wrong thing. This is his. He actually read the. Oh, it looks like I copied the wrong thing here. Okay. All right. He read this thread from Murder by Crayons, and he actually agreed that it was one of the best summations um, in regards to what was happening. So I'm going to give those both to you. I did it in a thread app, and you can actually open it online. You don't even need Twitter to open up the thread app. When I do it that way, which when it's a lot of information like that, I do like to put it out. And just to show you that like Murder by Crayons is really credible. Here is the actual from the Romanian court. And this is how we have to do it. Just so you guys understand why it takes a few days, why on the 18th we weren't right out here doing all of this. This has to be translated. Okay. This actually hit the website and we got the link in Romania after the appellate court did their decision, and it has to be translated over. Okay, they actually list the paragraphs and what parts have to be amended, just to show you that like we're not trying to not give the Tates a fair shake here. This is actually coming from the Romanian court. We are not just taking some Twitter feed and slamming them with it. Okay. Like this is actually source documented back to the original court the best that we can, just like we do every other case. And I'm only clarifying that because I have received a few DMs or public attempts at shaming from Tate fans. And like, I'm not going to, if you're a Tate fan, good on you. I'm going to judge either way. I have my opinion about Tate, but it don't have as much to do with this case. We're going to follow this case black and white, no matter how it goes. They did get some wins in the last hearing. And if you play back a couple of minutes, you will hear me say they did. Okay. Well, it does come from actual source information. And I can't believe I actually have to come out and say that, but I am, because I really don't like the idea that people think I'm just piling on to somebody based on what somebody said on Twitter. Because anybody who knows me, that ain't me. Okay? That ain't me at all. So for those of you into just document the record, you can pause it and read it all for yourselves, but basically in longer, more lawyery kind of Romanian language, it is all here exactly what I just said before in regards to what they're doing in regards to this case. Okay. Now it will repeat. You'll notice like from page 1, the last word is decot there. And so when I had to copy and paste to fit it on here, the first word in the second one will be decot. So you can just avoid that. And then the same thing happens on page 2 where it says Tate the third, Emery Andrew, and Tate Tristan. That will repeat in the translation exactly again. Okay. And there we are. So that concludes what happened on the 19th, just a couple of days ago in the High Court. Okay. For appeal. And they'll be back in December. Okay. So we'll leave it at that. I'm going to leave that up for a minute for those of you guys that want to read. And while I check the chat, I do have a little bit more on the Tates. No, what do you mean? I did translate it. You don't think it's good? There is more. The other little thing that I have in regards to the Tates, and I'll go back and just put their picture up while I talk about this. Is the translate works pretty well, actually. I think Turtle. Um, I was happy with it. It's hard to get like full sentences. Like the sentence structure, I will admit, is a bit like wonk on it, actually. All right. The next thing that I have for the Tate brothers, there's more than one case, right? We've got the UK case, which is still, they're still like, if they are released, or if this case was tossed, we still have the second indictment in Romania. Okay, although the case is not dismissed yet, but we still have to hear from DCOT, so we're going to have to put a pin in that and wait. But we still have the second indictment, and chances are DCOT could just roll the two together. They could just amend the second indictment's charges to include these over, clarify the ones in regards to Georgiana and Alexandra, and move it all together. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what standard procedure is there in Romania. I know DCOT is working hard. Their thing is human trafficking, sex trafficking, and organized crime. And they're on these brothers. Okay, so how they're going to handle it with two different indictments, or roll it all into one, maybe dismiss case number one and roll into case number two, add the additional charges into case number two on what they can pull over. That's going to get messy with assets and stuff like that. And like they're still going to have to clarify the assets to each victim in order to keep them. Which Romanian courts they do. They did release some of them because they were leased vehicles, or they didn't actually have clear ownership to the Tate brothers themselves in the illegal racketeering, and or they actually could be proved that they were bought by funds clearly in some ways. Somebody bought it for them. The money came from somewhere else. It wasn't actually in regards to the racketeering charges in Romania. So some of the assets were returned. A few of the cars, not all of them, as claimed by supporters out there on Twitter that everything was returned because there's nothing to these. Not so. The buildings still all have liens on them. They can't sell anything. They can't do anything. There's still quite a few cars being held. That's all still true. Okay. But the big news in the Florida case, which is a civil case that Andrew filed against one of the victims who actually spoke out and had the whole thing kind of snowballed when she complained to her parents. Her parents contacted someone in Romania. They went to the embassy and they complained about how their daughter was being treated, that she was being held in Romania against her will. Okay. So in retaliation, or because he feels he was wronged and that they are responsible for this whole thing, Andrew Tate filed against the victim's parents, and the reporting person from the diplomacy who actually got everybody involved, which a judge has dismissed the parents and everybody else but victim number one, who is the only one who actually made statements against Andrew Tate, because he is actually saying it's defamation. She's ruining his life. It's all personal. She's just disgruntled, yada, yada, yada. But the only reason I'm talking about it right now is the only movement since then to have all of that dismissed. Andrew Tate did get permission to go forward with a civil case against the victim because she did make statements. Because, as the judge said, that doesn't mean he thinks that the statements aren't true. That just means that he could see that she made the statements which Andrew Tate said she made. Now it's going to be up to a jury to decide whether that's defamation or not, whether these are true or not. Well, here's the problem for Andrew Tate in regards to that. The Romanian case is now filed in the Florida case. Records of it, including the sex trafficking of Ukrainian refugees, Andrew having sex with a 15-year-old minor, Tristan possibly going forward with sex trafficking Ukraine refugees. Several pages of damning transcript have been entered into evidence in this case. Tate can no longer claim that any of these chats are fake because a U.S. judge has accepted the Romanian indictment into file. There are clear conversations between Tate, Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, Georgiana, and Alexandra, and the victims entered into this civil suit. So, well, when it comes to that, this is what we would call a backfire on Andrew Tate. This is not good for him because him filing that suit was to deter anyone else from doing anything like this. And actually, by bringing the charges in Romania and having that indictment now and all of this time, and now it's in here in the United States in this case, which means it's part of a public record. And it's kind of a backfire. It's not doing. He still gets to go forward with the case. They're still going to actually present evidence on whether or not this person is lying or she had a personal vendetta. He's saying she tried to blackmail him and that's why she's doing this because he wouldn't pay her. But they got the embassy involved and the parents and all kinds of stuff. And if he did hold her there against his will and all of this did happen, even if she did say, if you give me this money, I won't talk about it. Well, she could be facing separate charges, but it doesn't negate what he did. Two wrongs don't make a right. It doesn't. Anyway, it's all for the courts to decide. I just thought you'd be interested in that because that's going to be something. And I can't wait to keep up on that one. And in the UK case, they still are going to be extradited from Romania when this is all settled here, because that has been approved by the courts. And he's going to Britain to face those charges. There's no statute of limitations, as Turtle has confirmed in the chat. I have actually researched that. He's going to face those charges whenever that comes forward. They have finally decided to go through on that. He also has quite a bit of problems. He's got dual citizenship here and in Britain, and he's got some tax evasion charges that he actually said certain amounts and things like that, and they actually put penalties that I don't know if he's actually paid that or not, but there was a judgment against him for that. That all happened, and then they went on the court recess. If I'm correct, it can be a little bit of time. So I haven't heard much more about that right now, but just knowing that the Romania indictment is now in the Florida case to be used against Andrew Tate, that's kind of his own fault, But I'm sure he wasn't expecting that. And it's not actually going to be listed as a win. It's got to be quite uncomfortable. But they're going to fight it, I'm sure. He's got good lawyers here. He's got good lawyers there. As going through in Romania, there's a big appeal process. And there's actually very pro-defendant there. They jumped through hoops, as you saw, with like 3 judges having to look at the indictment to see if it could even go forward. It was a very long process, a little different than here in America. And still, they did find some things in the appellate, part of it that needed to be clarified, because when they come to court and they slam this case, it's a done deal. And apparently Romanian prisons are not really pleasant places to be. When you're looking on the platforms and you hear from Tate supporters that everything's been dismissed, if it was dismissed, Andrew Tate wouldn't still be under house arrest. And he is. And there is no record of the case being dismissed. If there is, I'll report it as soon as we find out. But just hearing Tate supporters say so, and from what we read coming out of the Romanian court hearing from the 19th, there are some changes that need to be made, but nothing, some evidence has been removed, namely witness statements that were done too soon that can be redone, a witness statement that needs to be clarified in regards to information given to the defense team, in regards to who, what, where, and when needs to be tidied up. And the statements of the brothers were removed. And it's up to them if they want to give them again or not. So that's where that is. I'm going to look through for a few questions to see if there's anything. But other than that, if you guys don't have questions, I'm gonna go rest my voice. Hey, Jin, and I do hope that you all will go over to Shenanigans and have a nice, relaxing chat. Not so like, distressing as all the bad boys we had to talk about and bad women that we had to talk about. You know. Mm. Turtle, we can wait. Yes, you mean for the Britain's trial? Yes, gonna be a good one. And they actually did the tax evasion one without them being there. Like they said, there was enough to go forward without it. You know, yeah. On that, I think I'm going to say goodnight, everybody. Purple has actually put the link in the chat for Shenanigans. I hope to see you over there. Thank you for joining me on an off night. We've got quite a few things coming up next week. Quite a few cases. We're going to go over P. Diddy after Friday's bail hearing. Okay, hit the community tab later tonight or early tomorrow morning. I'm going to be putting up a vote poll on that. I did put one on Twitter and I was surprised. I was surprised. I wanted to see where you guys are thinking about that. We've also got a new case. Well, actually, it's not new for me. It happened in 2018, but it's just getting ready for trial now. Had some interesting motions and some interesting things going on with it that happened right here in my backyard in New Jersey, in Marlborough, New Jersey, and it's going to be right here in my court in Freehold soon, and we're going to bring you up to date on that. We also have James Tolliver Craig, the dentist who allegedly poisoned his wife. He's coming up for trial in December. And I want to get you up to date on everything that's been going on with that case and with him. And we're going to be talking about that next week too. Plus some other little thing. I mean, we've got so many of the other cases just keep, you know, uh, bringing back up to date. One thing of note is that Lafitte in the Murdaugh trial, the banker actually did win his appeal for a retrial for the financial crimes. He was the banker involved with a lot of Alex Murdaugh's financial crimes, and he did win under the severe penalty that Judge Newman gave him. He actually did win his retrial appeal. He will be getting another trial, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't see him being found not guilty. But hey, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. All right, everyone. Hey, Beck. Okay, on that, I'm going to say good night, everybody. Have a good one.